last year as to why I really got active was Laken Riley. I have a 20-year-old college student that was on a campus. So when I heard the news about Laken, it just literally took my heart, pulled it out, and broke it into a million pieces. Hey everybody, my name is Kelly, and here's my walkaway video. Now, mine's going to be a little bit different. It's going to take a little bit of a curve in the middle, but let me just start from the beginning. So I, like most of you, did not follow politics. I didn't really know much about anything. I got into my adult life, started paying bills, like every typical household, having kids. You start paying attention to finances and stuff like that. But I still was never really involved. I did show up to vote in the generals, never the primaries. And things started shifting during the Obama era. So I'm going to say that I most likely voted for Obama the first term. Found him very charismatic, bought into the whole thing that I, heard from the media. What a great guy, unifier, that type of stuff. And I'm pretty sure I did vote for him. And things started shifting halfway, through his term, and I did not vote for him the second term. Still didn't really pay enough attention to politics. And then all of a sudden, this guy named Donald Trump came along, and he was going to run against Hillary Clinton. Well, I was not happy about either, and I'm not going to lie. I did my due diligence. I went up to the voting polls that day and stood there at the machine, and I almost walked out. I was very frustrated that I had to choose between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. The media, liked Donald Trump, but didn't really know much about him other than, he's just this big celebrity. And I didn't like that at all. I decided to stay, and I knew I could not vote for Hillary Clinton. That was just out of the question. So, again, like a lot of you, I held my breath, and I decided to push that button for Donald Trump, and I walked out. Got up the next morning expecting that we were going to have President Hillary Clinton in office, and my husband woke me up and said, "Hey, guess what? It's Donald Trump." And I didn't even know how to respond to that. I was happy we didn't have Hillary, but I don't think I was very happy that we had Donald Trump either. I thought out of, 330 million people, we could have chosen better candidates. First 2 years, like many, we endured the screaming, the yelling, and everything else. And I just didn't understand. And I couldn't figure out what was going on with that whole situation because, we have an election, we move on. We don't have all this fighting. And for probably the first 2 years, I ignored the news. I didn't pay attention to much of anything. And then all of a sudden, this video came across my timeline. And I'd already started, listening and paying a little more attention than normal. But there was this guy named Brandon, and he was intriguing to me. It was just a simple video, and I had no idea who this guy was. Not sure how he ended up on my timeline. But I watched the video, and it just captured me for a period of time. And I decided, you know what? I do find this intriguing, and I want to know more about Brandon. So I started following him. Wasn't long after that, what happened? The walkaway came about because everybody else felt the same way I did. We were intrigued by what he was having to say, and we were all feeling that. We were all feeling this angst and this, craziness going on in our world. And I started listening to more of his stuff, but I will say I started also paying attention to politics. I met several great friends. Well, probably more than several. I probably have 100 friends on my timeline now that are all from the Walkaway group. One of them has become one of my best friends, and we probably speak 10 times a day. And I will say to you that the biggest change for me was the Charlottesville video, and that came from Brandon as well. And I was a huge NBC fan, and I grew up watching it in the morning. We watched it in the evenings. Usually in the evenings, though, sometimes we'd flip over to CBS, Dan Rather. And Brandon put this video out on the Charlottesville thing, and I'd been hearing some rumblings about this, the whole white supremacist thing, and kept thinking, how on earth can Donald Trump ever glorify this? And I remember the commentary saying, watch the whole video. Well, I watched the whole video, and my mind was blown. And at that moment, everything in my life changed. How I perceived things, how I saw things in the outside world. And it just felt like we'd been lied to for a long time. And that was the moment that I started watching everything in its entirety. I developed this thirst of wanting to see interviews. I started listening to podcasts, got so wrapped up in it. And it was mind-boggling to me because it was very interesting. I started listening to Supreme Court hearings because I wanted to hear testimony on both sides coming, before our judges and presenting their cases. I didn't want to hear the media cutting things out so that we divided the nation any longer. So where I want to segue on this is I got to talk to Brandon a few weeks ago. I had messaged him and he called me and we had several conversations. And last year, I got so involved in politics. And if somebody would have said to me, Kelly, you're going to end up in this arena someday, I would have told them they're nuts. Well, I went out and I joined a group and I started registering voters. And my team probably registered close to 800 voters by the end of last year. I actively campaigned for Donald Trump. I did vote for him, by the way, in 2020 and, was eager to get on the trail and to get out and talk to people because this experience was very life-changing for me. When Brandon and I talked, something kind of entered my heart a little bit, and that's probably the biggest reason for this video. At the end of election season last year, I did a big thank you video, and I thanked, my EVA team. I thanked Turning Point. I thanked Cliff Maloney from PA Chase. I thanked the GOPs. I thanked all the grassroots people. But the one person I didn't thank, and the one organization I didn't thank, was the walkaway. And that's really bothered me the last couple of weeks in hindsight. Because if I had to go back in time and really take a moment of when I changed my entire mindset, when everything for me completely did a 180, and when I started paying attention, it was the walkaway. It was this guy named Brandon Straka. And I have followed him for years. I watched the whole J6 journey and was heartbroken. I will say I didn't speak out as much as I probably should have. I don't think any of us did, honestly. Very few spoke up for Brandon. But it was heartbreaking. I think we were all, the last 4 years, very scared. I know I was. I was petrified. And it was that movement that completely changed my life and how I want to live it. So my moment last year as to why I really got active was Lake and Riley. I have a 20-year-old college student that was on a campus. So when I heard the news about Lakin, it just literally took my heart, pulled it out, and broke it into a million pieces. I never thought that I would ever be worried for my children in this country. And as a mom, it is heartbreaking. There are so many things that we're looking at right now between the fentanyl crisis, the border issues, inflation. My first walkaway story was telling you about how my business took a complete punch in the face. I've had to close my store. I've pretty much moved out of all the co-ops that I was in. And my retail business is basically flatlined right now. And I'm in the process of hopefully rejuvenating it a little bit. But it was very hard for 4 years. I'm a sole proprietor, as is my husband. So we have 2 small businesses in this house. So everything the Biden administration did directly impacted our house. The cost of insurance, just skyrocketing for everything. Our car insurance, our liability insurance, health insurance, all of it. And then you've got gas, you've got groceries. Inflation was through the roof. We have violence in this country we've never seen. And I decided I had to get up and do something. I can't sit around any longer and not participate because that makes me, I think, culpable. And I think, when people ask me how to get involved, I have to tell them, there's always something, and not doing something almost makes you just as guilty, because we are not controlling the government, and we the people, right? So I plan on continuing with this entire voter registration thing. I have lots of stuff planned already for this year, but I really wanted to take tonight to just thank Brandon, because I don't think Brandon and Walkaway have ever got any kind of accolades like they should have. Because I know if you're watching this video, you probably were in the same position I was at one point and said, you know what, I can't do this side of the aisle any longer. They have lost their minds. They are angry. They're bitter. They're deceitful. And that's not to say your friends are that, but the Democratic Party has absolutely become that. And I can't ever go back there. It will always be a conservative vote on my behalf. But I've also had to teach myself, about policy over personality. I actually now enjoy President Trump. I've gone to several rallies. I've actually set up at a couple of rallies to do voter registration for President Trump and actively campaigned. But we all have a place in this journey. And I hope that at some point people start recognizing the Walkaway for what it was. And it was a movement that started this entire snowball for most of us. Brandon and I talked a little bit about me getting involved, and I do plan on joining him on the road whenever I can this year. And I'm hoping maybe he can swing over to Pennsylvania and hang out with me at times. And this journey is not over for all of us. And I hope if you're watching this, that you understand that this movement was about love. We had 500,000 people in a Facebook group page. I have never in my life experienced so much love and harmony. Look at Christmas dinner. How many of you guys can literally go to a family dinner without an argument breaking out? We had 500,000 people in a group that did not argue. And I'm not exaggerating that. I found so much peace and solace at night when the whole world was spinning out of control for me. I would come home and read testimonials, because that grounded me. And it told me that there were more people like me and you in this world, not the angry people, not the bitter people, not the people breaking the laws and being violent. People like you and I that love our country, respect our Constitution, and understand what that Constitution was installed for. So I'm hoping to see more testimonials. And I hope that I find people that inspired me coming back around to do these videos. There were 2 or 3 in specific that I can pinpoint from way back then. And I've always hoped that we would see updates on them, because I always wondered how they're making out and how things are going for them, and if life has gotten better, and if they've still, stayed on the walkaway path. And I would have to think they did. So I'm hoping you guys will all put your testimonials out. But I also hope that you guys will really lend your support to Brandon. And Lord knows he's been through a lot the last 4 years. And I'm very grateful that he got his pardon. And I'm grateful that he's able to speak out at this time. So join him on the road when you can, or the rest of the Walkaway team. If you can contribute, please do so. It's going to take every one of us. We got midterms right around the corner. And I know you guys don't think that's important, but it is. We usually get beat up during midterms when we have a Republican president. And I don't plan on slowing down. I plan on continuing to do what I do. I've reached out to some other contacts that I'm hoping to, just continue to broaden this conversation with other people. So if you can do anything, do it. Whether it be, again, meet them on the road, donate, show up to a rally, or just talk to your friends and show them some of the testimonials from these pages. Because I'm telling you, they make a difference. They made a difference in my life and a lot of my friends. So with that, I just want to say, I hope you all have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing all of your beautiful faces and hear so much more love for our country coming out of all of you guys. Good night and God bless.
For more great videos, download the Walkaway Social app at walkawaysocial.com. Share your testimonial and join our community.